Welcome everyone, HogvilleNET YouTube Live post-game analysis, Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, this is a team that's won 2 of its last 3 games. Take that for what it's worth, but it's how things are have shaped up in the last week or so after being off and having a bye during midweek. But Arkansas edged out a 78-75 home win over Georgia. It was the rematch between these two teams. We know that in Game 2 of SEC play, Arkansas went on the road and lost to the Bulldogs by 10 points, 76-66. So both teams got into the 70s again. It was a similar kind of game. Obviously, Arkansas playing at home had some advantage today. This was a less than packed Bud Arena, probably 8 to 10 minutes before tip-off. It was maybe a third or a little less full. Right around tip-off, it was probably getting closer to half full, maybe a little below. And then probably, 5 or 6 minutes in, it got to a point where it was 55% is my estimate, maybe 10,500 in here today, maybe 11, but maybe closer to 10. Some people thought it was less than 10. But either way, Arkansas comes back home after losing, one of those colossal road losses at LSU by 21 points a week ago to the day. The Razorbacks get back on the winning track. Now, this was a Georgia team that came in struggling, lost 4 of its most 4 consecutive games coming in, so now 5 in a row. And Arkansas makes no apologies for beating a team when it's had its own problems. Arkansas was another game where Arkansas was teetering on having its first overall losing record under Eric Musselman in its 5th season. So Arkansas needed to win this game to avoid that, which was the same scenario when Arkansas went to Mizzou a week ago. So now Arkansas is 1 above 500, 12-11 overall. Razorbacks moved to 3-7 in SEC play, but again, Arkansas's won 2 out of its last 3 SEC games, and so that's not a big deal after when you started 1-7 to match the worst ever start. I think now Arkansas started 1-6 through its first 7 games. So to win 2 out of 3 here, that 1-6 start matched the worst start ever under John Pelfrey 15 years ago in the 08-09 season. That team finished 2-14. So Arkansas also today gets itself off the 2-win mark, gets to 3. It cannot finish as poorly as that team did in terms of total wins in league play. Obviously, even percentage-wise, if Arkansas were to lose out, it'd still be a better percentage. Nobody wants to hear that, but at least this is not going to be that historically bad because there's been some historically bad losing margins. The final record in league play will not match that. And Arkansas has been in the SEC now, we know, going back to the 91-92 season. So it's a lot of years. And we'll see, how much more Arkansas can do to move the needle and improve. But look, 2-2 in the last 4 games. When you look at the home game against Kentucky, that was the last time Arkansas played here prior to today. That was a close loss, a game that Arkansas really played well. It's a Kentucky team that's been struggling a lot since that point. And even before beating Arkansas, having lost in overtime at Texas A&M, was kind of really where things started to slide for those Wildcats. But 2-2 in the last 4. But I think collectively in these last 4 games, Arkansas, there's more of a sense of cohesion and certain things that you can start banking on or counting on. Effort's one of those things. Some of the blue-collar hustle play categories are things that Arkansas is starting to step up. And even though Arkansas plays, Musselman continues to play a lot of players, today really wasn't that case. I mean, 10 total. Some games it's 11, 12, 14. Today, you had 4 players play 30 or more minutes. Makai Mitchell was a 5th guy, over 20 minutes, 25. And then Jalen Graham, most of his damage in the first half, 14 total minutes. So it was really kind of squeezed down to a top 6 rotation. We really haven't seen much of that. The first player that stands out to me today is Ellis, the senior guard. Look, if you look at Arkansas's best 3 wins this season, Duke, going back in late November, the only quad 1 win on the resume. If you look at the A&M win here, Arkansas's first win in league play a few weeks ago. And then today, Ellis factored in big in all 3 of those games. Those are Arkansas's 3 best wins of the season. When you look at the quads, Arkansas's 1-6 in quad wins. Duke is the 1. When you look at quad 2, Arkansas is now 2-4 after this win today. Ellis, 15 points each against A&M and today against Georgia. But it wasn't just the scoring. I remember against A&M, especially in that second half, Ellis with the drives, kickouts for 3s, really helped Arkansas maintain and find a way to win that game. Today, he matched Dvo Davis with a team-high 3 assists. This was not a big assist game for either team. Each team finished with 10, but 3 to go along with those 15 points. Keon Minifield, Ellis got the start today, by the way. He's a guy that hadn't played in the last couple of games. You have to go back to that Kentucky game when he really struggled playing the lead guard. Today, obviously a different matchup, but it's a team, again, when we talk about the 7 league losses, we know that 6 of those were by double-digit margins, right? The narrowest of those double-digit margins, a lot of them were scary blowouts. The narrowest of those was the road loss at Georgia, lost by 10. Arkansas was winning a possession with 5 minutes to go, 3-point game there. So this was a favorable matchup for the Hogs because now we've seen these teams play twice. They split these games, but both games were close. And so, Arkansas, I believe, was the favorite coming into today. And the Hogs hold on for a 3-point win, 78-75. We're going to go through some more of it. Let's go back to Ellis right now. The 15 points I mentioned, 6 of 11 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. He's a guy that has, he was not a great 3-point shooter coming in from Louisville. Adequate, I guess you would say, but he's really, with all of his struggles, 3-point shooting, at least in that kind of volume, 3 of 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but for him, relative to what's going on this year, that was really good for Arkansas because that led the way from behind the arc. This was a game where Arkansas really focused on, getting to the basket, getting inside the arc, and I think that's a good thing. Eric Musselman said post-game his teammate had over 220 passes in the offense. So even though there weren't a lot of assists on those, the ball did move. And so Ellis was a big part of that. But we're going to go through more of this when we talk about the 5 rebounds he contributed. I mentioned 15 points, 3 assists. But 5 rebounds. He's had a few good rebounding games from that point guard spot. This was one of them. It really helped Arkansas because we know it's a team that struggles either on the glass or in the turnover game. Guess what? 3 steals for L today. That's big. That is big. And he's a guy that really hung in there at both ends. Only 1 turnover. 37 minutes was a box score +1. So, sometimes the box score plus and minus can be deceiving. When you watch this game, if you got the impression I did, he was a big impact on Arkansas winning this game. Off the bench, Keon Minifield Jr., the sophomore guard, we know he missed Arkansas's first 10 games. Kind of been up and down, mostly, probably flying below the radar in SEC play. Not been a big production guy in league play, but he's had his moments. The win at Missouri was one of them, I believe. And yet when you look at these 2 wins in these last 3 games, he's got another feather in his cap here with a 15-point game. He also was 6 of 11 from the field. Wasn't as good from 3 as Ellis was, only 1 of 5, but he did make both his free throws on a night where Arkansas was dicey at the free throw line, whereas Georgia was really good at the foul line. So when you start looking at stats at some areas where you think you dominated in, like in the turnover game, points off turnovers, fast break, Arkansas dominated that in the second half, had to have it. Arkansas shot over 70% in the second half. But when you look at some of the other stuff, like the free throw line, it helped Georgia get back in this game, stay in the game, and also second chance points. So sometimes stats are misleading. Sometimes they tell it perfectly. I thought the free throw line was big advantage Georgia when we look at the percentages, only +2 in makes. But when you look at the percentages, Arkansas left a lot on the table there, and this could have been potentially a double-digit win had Arkansas done a little better at the free throw line. You never know how that plays out. But we're going to go through the team stats more than the individual. I went through Ellis already. We talked a little bit about Minifield and some of his numbers, but Minifield also contributed 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. He had a block. And the only area when you really look at it were the 5 turnovers. He was stepping on the sideline, stepping out of bounds. That happened a few times with him. That kind of, snowballed those turnovers into 5. So, obviously, that's something you want to get better at. But overall, Minifield helped Arkansas off the bench. I thought his quickness, especially against Georgia's zone, he was getting around guys pretty quick. And so even sometimes the ball movement wasn't displacing defenders. It was his quickness and Ellis's quickness getting by the first guy, attacking those soft spots, and then Arkansas moved the ball pretty well. And there were some easy looks, especially in that second half. Arkansas shot 14 of 19 from the field in the second half, 73.7%. Not a huge volume of field goal makes there. Arkansas shot 20 free throws, but that ball movement, when you look at the field goal shooting and then the amount of free throws attempted, it was a lot of advantage Arkansas getting Georgia out of position and trying to recover. And that's how you pick up fouls and get to the foul line. So I thought Arkansas did a really good job in a lot of ways, other than converting at the foul line at times. That was problematic for these Hogs. So we're going to keep going through some of these stats. I mentioned Ellis, Minifield we went through. I thought once again, Mekhi Mitchell, when you go back to Kentucky and Mizzou, back-to-back double-doubles, he really played tough. These last 2 games, LSU, we know Arkansas got blown out, but he did score double figures in that game. I think he had 4 or 5 rebounds. Not a big rebounding day against LSU, but back in double digits, 13 points. I thought he was really big down the stretch. He hit the go-ahead. Our game was tied. 54 seconds left. He scores a layup inside. Arkansas took the lead for good, 74-72. And then that was with 54 seconds left. And then in the final 23 and a half seconds, Arkansas was 4 of 6 at the line, while Georgia was now chasing Arkansas was able to swell it to a 2-possession lead at one point. Georgia chased that, got it down to 1 possession, just ran out of clock. So Arkansas did just enough at the free throw line, go 4 of 6 down that stretch to hold on to a 3-point advantage for the final margin. And look, I mean, we go back through some of this stuff. Arkansas, when we get back to Makai Mitchell, 14.6, 4 of 6 from the field. He's always efficient. He'll miss a chippy or two, but he's going to convert and shoot a high percentage. But 6 of 8 at the foul line. I mentioned these last stretch of games, 4 games now, where Arkansas's identity is starting to surface a little bit. And he's been pretty consistent. And he's, when we look at 6 of 8 at the foul line, this is a guy that shot really well at the free throw line against Kentucky, again against Mizzou. And I think he probably shot well at the line. I don't remember the final stats there at a smaller volume at LSU in a throwaway game. But look, here's a guy that's really stepped it up. He's drawing fouls. He's getting those FTAs that Eric Musselman covets. And then he goes to the line. He's knocking down a high clip. You cannot win close games like this if the guys that are going to the foul line are not making free throws. I talked about Arkansas overall being poor. And Mitchell did have an 0 for 2 at the free throw line late in the second half when Georgia was starting to put a dent. Arkansas had led by as many as 12 points in that second half. Georgia was digging into that. He had an 0 for 2. Then Mark had an 0 for 2, so it was an 0 for 4 stretch there. But other than that, Mitchell knocked down the rest of his free throws, including when I mentioned those 4 of 6 in the last 23.6 seconds. He knocked down both of his free throws in that stretch that sent Arkansas out to a 5-point lead. And that was sandwiched between a 1 of 2 effort from Dvo Davis and a 1 of 2 effort from Tron Mark. And that left Georgia that final 1 of 2. Mark missed the second free throw with 0.8 seconds left. Georgia got the defensive rebound and tried to chuck it full length. And obviously that didn't, if that had been a basket, that's a tie game. We're going to overtime. But that was a desperation heave. All right. So getting Makai Mitchell, in addition to those 14 points, and I mentioned his shooting, but he did have 5 rebounds and 3 big blocks. So if you look at Arkansas advantage +4 in the blocks, typically Arkansas wins those battles. Rim protection 6-2 today +4, but Makai Mitchell had 3 of those, half of it. So that production continues to favor Arkansas in games. It's just that in so many games, Arkansas has not been able to match blocks with steals and some of the other things. Today, in the steals department, Arkansas was +4 there, 9-5. So in these recent games, you're seeing a higher volume of steals for this Arkansas team as more players are starting to kind of figure things out and generate some live ball turnovers. Talked about the 5 turnovers from Minifield, but some of those were stepping out of bounds, and Musselman talked about it in the post-game press conference. If you're going to have some turnovers, you'd rather it be dead ball instead of live ball. Because live ball, it makes it tough on your transition defense, and it gives opportunities for teams to get easy scores. And so, you never like turnovers, but when you're winning the turnover battle, as it is, you'd also like to kind of stack up those live ball turnovers forced, and then not have as many of those on your own when you're giving the ball away. And so Arkansas did a good job there overall. We're going to get to the team stats here in a minute. I'm still going through individual. So we talked about Makai Mitchell. We're going to move on to Tron Mark. He had a slow first half. I think he had 2 points at halftime, really kind of slow to get on track. We've seen him have games like that either, typically if he's slow in the first half, he picks it up in the second half. But he finished with 13 points, 4 of 8 from the field. So he did finish 50% shooting overall. 5 of 8 at the foul line. You'd like to see Tron do better than that because he's a guy that's got the ball in his hands a lot, and he's going to get there and get to that free throw line. But still 5 rebounds. And here's what he's been doing lately. He's been a guy that's led Arkansas in scoring, but he doesn't necessarily rack up a lot of other stats. He's come along in that way. It kind of started, in that stretch in December where Arkansas started winning games in non-conference. He started to kind of pick it up there. He had a double-double, got his first offensive rebound, actually his first 2 in the same game in that double-double game. But he's had more and more games where he's starting to rack up some block shots or get some steals. So he's really starting, when you look at the hustle plays. But look at Tron today. I went through the points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 assists, 2 blocks. And he played 39 minutes. So he played the heaviest dose of minutes. He was box +8, and I mentioned Ellis box +1. and Minifield in his 31 minutes was box +8, as was Dvo Davis was a box +8 in 35 minutes. Dvo, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, so that matched team high with Ellis. Only 1 turnover. And I mentioned the box +8 in 35 minutes. Dvo did miss a free throw late, fouled a 3-point shooter there at the end. Really, the clock was running out on Georgia, but there was enough time for Georgia to find a way, and so that was a little bit tough there. We've seen Dvo finish games great, sometimes not so great, but the overall performance I thought was big. He checked in. He obviously didn't start. He hadn't played the previous 3 games. That was the elephant in the room. I've waited 15 minutes to get into that because I really want to talk about the team and talk about, this team has struggled to find wins, and this was a team effort. I mean, 5 guys in double-figure scoring, a lot of guys checking different boxes, and I didn't want to just focus on Dvo. But now we're talking about him. Checked in at the 17:23 mark in the first half, got a standing ovation from what I call about a half-empty Bud Walton Arena. It was a little better than that, like I said earlier, but it was a lot of empty seats here. But he did get a standing ovation. I thought he played well tonight. He played well enough to help carve out a win in 35 minutes. He made his only field goal attempt. It was a catch and shoot 3 off ball movement. So he stuck that, and that was, at that point, I don't think Arkansas had taken many or made any. So that was big for him to stab that 3-pointer. Mentioned 1 of 2 at the, I did mention the 1 of 2 at the foul line late. So he ends up with those 4 points. But again, 4 rebounds with 3 assists, 2 steals, and only 1 turnover in 35 minutes. So I want to call this a very good floor game for Dvo Davis. And I'm also going to say his defense. I thought Arkansas in the first half as a team, the defense reminded me of the first half against Kentucky here. So in back-to-back games on this court, Arkansas's moved a needle. They played really good defense. This is a team through all non-conference and then moving into league play was not good defensively. And the offense was sputtering. It'd have bad games, and it looked like it was coming alive late in non-conference play. Then you got into league play, and both are tanking, both. In fact, the offense, you could argue, now that we're, 10 games into league play with 8 to go, 3-7 record, the offense has probably been worse overall than the defense in league play. But neither have been very good consistently. The defense lately has been better. We mentioned against Mizzou, the defense was outstanding in the first half. Arkansas built a big lead, escalated that to 20-plus points, and then had to hold on kind of at the end. 1 by 7, the defense gave up a lot in that second half. We saw the defense, not have a good game at LSU. Arkansas won some of the blue-collar stuff, but when the field goal shooting is as good as it was for the Tigers everywhere, 2, 3, at the free throw line, that's a problem. And so it was back to good defense. Now, the second half, Arkansas tends to have these, whether it's other teams making adjustments, a combination of things, Arkansas tends to let up in these second halves of some of these games. Defensively, we saw that again some today. But Arkansas checked some other boxes on offense, especially 14 of 19 from the field for 73.7%. As much as this team has struggled to shoot the ball, we've seen it throughout league play. And this is, again, Georgia was coming off 4 consecutive losses, but this is a decent team, 14-9 coming in, and you shoot that way, especially in the second half. I thought Arkansas was really patient with shot selection. 3 of 8 from 3. So even the 3-point shooting in the second half was a little better than it was in the first half, and that helped Arkansas. The free throw line's another story. So we went through Dvo. The one guy I really haven't talked about and mentioned that we got minutes today. Most of that in the first half was Jalen Graham. Led Arkansas at the break, had 10 points, and Arkansas had built up a 10-point lead in that first half, and then was up by 5 at halftime. But he had 10 of his 11 points in the first half and a couple of rebounds. He finishes with 3 rebounds. Graham did to go with those 11 points. So 4 of 7 from the field, only 3 of 6 at the foul line. He was one of the culprits at the foul line today. And we know he's not a good free throw shooter. He's had some stretches where he's been better, but some games it's really hit and miss. Mekhi Mitchell's the one that's really elevated his efficiency and volume at the foul line, for that matter. And so good for Mekhi. But Graham contributed to this win today. And so those were your main guys. I think Layden Blocker, the true freshman, got a start. He had a pull-up jumper early. We saw Chandler Lawson score, I think, Arkansas's 4 of their first 6 points. He and Blocker did. I think they scored Arkansas's first 6 points and didn't scratch after that. And so those guys didn't factor as heavily into this game. Caleb Battle played off the bench, had 1 shot attempt. It only played like 3 minutes. So this was not this is one of those games. And by the way, this Arkansas team now Wednesday hosts Tennessee. This is an 8 o'clock tip at Walton Arena. I believe it's on ESPN2. But sixth ranked team in the country, it's another quad one win opportunity. Arkansas is only 1-6 there. 12-11 overall, 3-7 in conference play. And so we talked about this team, Arkansas not having a reasonable path to an at-large bid. I mean, I think Arkansas would have to not only win out, which I said before the LSU game, if they wanted to go into the SEC tournament with at-large, feeling like that's viable. Now I think even if you won out now, you're going to have to win some games in the SEC tournament and get to the finals, maybe to have a real at-large shot. The automatic bid is probably Arkansas's only ticket, because I don't expect Arkansas to roll through the rest of the regular season, let alone. But if Arkansas can find a way to not finish in the bottom four of the league, at least they would get a one-day bye to the Thursday round of 16. Maybe if you're hoping for 4 wins in 4 days, obviously it's easier to do that than 5 wins in 5 days, which is where Arkansas, what it's facing now. It's still near the bottom of the SEC at 3-7. This is a Georgia team now that came in 4-6 days. Bulldogs started 4-2 in league play, 5 straight losses. So 4-7 in league play, 14-10 overall. This is one of those things that was really dicey here. If you lose this game and you're 11-12, you're underwater in the overall schedule. And people say, well, what does it matter? This season might be lost. Well, it matters. And that's not happened under Eric Musselman. At no point has Arkansas been underwater in the overall record under Muss since he's been at Arkansas. I haven't gone back and researched what he did at Nevada in terms of that, but he had a lot of success there. So that might even be a first if it happens. And you can't discount that it won't, because these games get even tougher here. I mentioned Tennessee coming in. If Arkansas were able to win that, you're 13-11. 4-7 in league play, and you've got your second quad one win. And then after that, you're going to have at least 4 more quad one win opportunities. The problem there is all of those are on the road: Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Kentucky, and Alabama. The rest of your home slate after Tennessee, you're talking about getting Missouri after you won on the road against Mizzou. You get an LSU team that blew Arkansas out, but you know what? I'm not sure that Arkansas couldn't find a way, potentially, if it is able to defend and at least have a really solid half, at least one half, and then find a way, like it's done in some of these closer games, to hang on. But you could beat LSU, and then Vanderbilt comes here. So, right now at 12-11, if you counted those 3 as wins, 15-11, if you could somehow beat Tennessee at home and get you a quad one win here, another impressive top 10 ranked team. Arkansas beat Duke without Tron Mark. We know it was late November, but I mean, this is a team that has proven against quality, not very often, but it has proven there is some proof of concept there that it could happen. And so I'm not trying to stoke any, hope that Arkansas has got a path for an at-large bid. I think that's all but gone, and I've said that for a few weeks now. But you're still playing to win. And, Eric Musselman, we talked about it in the post-game press conference. One of the final questions I asked him was about the hustle and effort plays. Effort was missing so often for this team, and I think going back these last 4 games, it's been there. Arkansas split those. Arkansas needs to bottle that and find ways not to split games going forward. Somehow you got to start matriculating those wins, moving down the field. I'll use a little football Vince Lombardi analogy since we've got another Super Bowl on the way tomorrow. But Bud Walton Arena, it's not as loud in here post game as it often is for me when I do these. They don't have the leaf blowers out, not that I can hear them near me anyway. But the Arkansas Razorbacks 78-75. It's HogvilleNET YouTube Live post-game analysis. I want to thank everybody for joining. I want to thank my sponsors, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. Hopefully on Wednesday, I'll get up here early enough to go do a pregame from Jose's. Arkansas's coming off a win. Maybe Bud Walton Arena will be rejuvenated and we'll see closer to a packed house. I'm not counting on that, but it is a late start. Folks that work late and dealing with traffic and those things will have a little more time to get here. I know fans are dejected that Arkansas is not obviously in some kind of driver's seat for an at-large bid, and now you're seeing how good it can be. But, again, Arkansas's had turnarounds every year under Muss. This team doesn't seem to me still to be the kind of team that's going to be able to have a run like that. But that's why you play the games, and we'll see what Arkansas is able to do with Tennessee, arguably the best team in the SEC. Great job, Kevin. Thank you. Let's see. Unis went hard. You like the uniforms? Yeah, I didn't talk about the unis. They had the new look. Actually, the uniforms a little bit reminded me of the mid-80s when Nolan Richardson in his his first season or two. There was some of the font and some of it looked a little similar to me. Not exactly the same, but just a little bit of that feel. And those teams weren't very good. And so I don't know if there was what the message there was. By the way, Musselman in post-game press conference, you could tell that he's still getting his team to fight, and I think they're doing a better job of it. And so it would be really easy at 1-6 in league play to just kind of, okay, let's mail it in. Because there were times and stretches where it was lack of effort, a lot of dysfunction, but also body language, and you just got this feeling that guys at times were going through the motions because things weren't working out. And I think there is a more of a collective digging in, despite that horrible loss to LSU, which was one of many. Let's not lose sight of that. I'm not trying to say Arkansas's turned a corner, but again, these last 4 games, I think Arkansas has been better than they were, the previous 6 in SEC play. So there's that. And again, can Arkansas get on a real run here? I don't think so. But I'm not, based on Musselman's past, I'm not going to laugh about that and say, there's no way. I won't do that. Love the new actions they ran. Yeah, we talked about the defense and, the 3-point defense. It was horrible. Horrible. I think Arkansas gave up 31 of 63 combined in the previous 3 games. Even though you went on the road and beat Mizzou, you gave up 10 of 20 to that team from behind the arc. You gave up 9 of 20 to Kentucky in this building in the game you lost. You had a chance to win that one. And then LSU was over 50%. I think it was 12 of 23, something like that. So Arkansas really needed to get better there again. Held Georgia to 1 of 12 in the first half. Outstanding. And then the second half, Georgia was 3 of 6. But guess what? 50%. But they didn't take 12. They took half of what they took in the first half. So you kept the volume down, and then they only finished 4 of 18 overall, so 22.2%. That's an outstanding effort guarding the 3-point line for Arkansas. Again, I think things got dicey. Arkansas built a 12-point second-half lead. There were some of those dead ball turnovers, stepping out of bounds, things like that. Georgia sparked a couple runs, starting to get some second-chance points in there, and I really felt like that's where Arkansas found itself in another one of these games where they build a double-digit lead, can expand on it or give it away, however you want to frame it. But let's not lose sight of the fact that when Georgia did strike back and take a late lead, unlike Kentucky here a few weeks ago that grabbed a late lead and then kind of built on it and it snowballed to 10 in the final minute and it was over, Arkansas would always take the lead back. So Georgia would never, I think Georgia had one possession after taking a lead, one offensive possession, and that was not able to even build on that. Typically, when it went back up by 1, Arkansas would then come back, score, and go up 1. And Arkansas didn't, so many times we've seen Arkansas, whether it's Tron Mark or somebody, have to generate tough offense to get a bucket. In this game, it seemed like the scores were easy. Arkansas got a lot of coast-to-coast stuff off live ball turnovers, off defensive rebounds. In their half court, they were getting layups, just off good ball movement and guys getting to the right spots. Defenses are only so good if your ball movement's good and your guys aren't settling for threes and taking tough shots. Eventually, you're gonna have games maybe where you get more easy scores. That's where Arkansas struggled so much this year, is getting easy looks consistently. They got a lot in that second half. There's no other way to explain 4 of 19 from the field. There's just not. 73.7%. Not for this Arkansas team, not since league play started. So that was a big deal. Let's go through now the team numbers. I went through this individually already. Arkansas 28 of, God, I can't read my writing here. 28 of 59, 49, from the field overall, 57.1%. I mentioned 73.7% in the second half. 5 of 14 from 3, 35.7%. That's fine. It's a low volume. You didn't shoot, you didn't take it, you didn't get up there in the 20s trying to, win a 3-point game. Only 17 to 26 at the foul line. That was the disappointment, because remember, free throw shooting is always relative to what you need to close out. And the other team shot really well from there. We're going to go through Georgia's stats. So Arkansas 17 of 26 at the line, 65.4%. 13 of 20 in the second half. So Arkansas shot the ball. 4 of 6 at halftime. Shot a lot in the second half. Made only 13 in the second half. So 65%, even just about break even with the overall number. You need to do better than that. Georgia, 26 of 54 from the field, 48.1%. The Bulldogs were only around 35% in the first half. We've seen this play out with these Hogs. Really tough solid defensive first halves. In the games they've been good defensively, it seems like it's the first 20 minutes. The final 20, there were some struggles there. Second half, Georgia's 16 of 26. When we look at that overall number, they ended up shooting 61.5%. It's a good thing Arkansas was on over 70% on a lower volume of makes and takes, but the percentage was there to keep Arkansas competitive in that second half when you looked at scoring field goals. Georgia, I mentioned 3 of 6 from 3 in the second half, but that 1 of 12 in the first half was a doozy, and the overall number really fits for Arkansas. Especially, Georgia made 33% down in Athens. I think they were 9 of 27 in that game. Arkansas was 3 of 13. And so if you want to look at, just the three-point shooting aspect of it, that's where Arkansas kind of helped flip the script, shift this story, because Arkansas was +1 and made threes in this game. 19 of 23 for Georgia at the free throw line, 82.6%. I talked about Arkansas's numbers. This was a team that was about 17 percentage points better at the foul line, and it's why Georgia made 2 more free throws overall than Arkansas. And so in a tight game, those margins matter. Arkansas, again, might have won by 10, just like it lost by 10 to Georgia. You make more of your free throws and a percentage Arkansas is capable of hitting, then you might have taken your own 10-point win and gotten your first double-digit win in league play. Arkansas hasn't been able to do that, but you're going to take a win is a win, right? All right, so we went through Georgia 11 of 13 at the line in the second half, even better than the overall percentage, 84.6%. In the second half, they were 80% at the line, 8 of 10 in the first half. Turnovers, Arkansas only +2, 14 to 12. Lost that battle in the second half because Arkansas was +3 at halftime. But points off turnovers, 21 to 8. And that's when we start going back to the steals. You get 9 steals. Those are live ball turnovers. Arkansas had a lot that were stepping out of bounds. So you're able to really ring up a number like that. How big is that in a 3-point win? To be +13 in the points off turnovers. So that was a big deal. Rebounds, Arkansas was +1 at half. So both teams had equal rebounds in the second half because Arkansas finishes +1, 28-27. Offensive rebounds that favored Georgia, 8 to 5. Second chance points, Arkansas was up 6 to 2 at the break. Georgia ends up winning that 11 to 9. Again, free throw line and probably some of those second chance opportunities helped Georgia get back in it when Arkansas kept stepping out of bounds and giving the ball over when it wasn't scoring at a high efficiency clip. So second chance there, bench scoring, Arkansas 44 to 20. I always look at bench scoring, and it just depends on how well your starters are doing for each team for that to really factor in a whole lot. So Arkansas was +24 there in a close game. It means some of your starters, we know guys like Blocker and Graham gave way to guys that were playing off the bench like Mackay and Graham today. Jeremiah Davenport got a start, didn't see the floor very long. So 3 of your starters didn't contribute a lot there. Tron Mark eventually got going. He started, and then we talked about Ellis. Again, I kind of led with this, but just jumping back to L real quick before I finish up these team stats. Arkansas's best wins this season: Duke, Texas A&M here in this building, and then today. I mean, you can laugh at that notion that those are the 3 best wins now that you're 20-plus games, 23-plus games in. And those are your 3 best, but they are. The Duke one's nothing to sneeze at. But even, you win games in league play and they're close margins, and a guy like Ellis has stepped up each time. So, this is one of those coulda, woulda, shoulda. If Arkansas could have gotten more consistency from perhaps just him along with the other parts that it's had, maybe the record's a lot different right now. We're talking about a pathway to at-large. I don't want to hang it all on L, but, he was the guy that Musselman targeted in the offseason as the lead guard, a veteran guy. And again, you're glad to see L have a game like this today because it helped Arkansas win. It wasn't for naught. But getting back to the team stats, Arkansas 19 to 15 in fast break. Look, Georgia was up 10 to 4 in fast break scoring in the first half. Arkansas did a much better job in the second half, converting its turnovers, getting out and running, and it helps explain the 14 of 19 from the field because there was a lot of clean looks getting coast to coast. And not having to struggle, having to work through a half-court offense. I thought Arkansas did a good job. Obviously, fast break, +10 in the second half in that scoring to win that overall 19 to 15. I mentioned Arkansas was +4 in the block, 6-2, +4 in steals. Usually they win blocks and not steals, +4 in steals, 9 to 5, and then assists. Each team had 10. This was not it was more of the hockey assist kind of game, or the get the ball to the right guy in space and let him go to work. Sometimes you don't get the credit for an assist, but you made the right passes to get a guy in a good spot for him to go to work. And again, when you're scoring in transition and going coast to coast, which Arkansas was able to do today, you're not, that's mono, that's one guy. You get a rebound or a steal and you go coast to coast and it's a bucket. So there's not an assist there. So sometimes the stats can be misleading because I thought the ball moved well for Arkansas despite a low assist number there. But again, we've kind of run through all the stats now. We've run through what all of this means. Realistically, it doesn't mean a lot for postseason, but you never know. You never know if Musselman can somehow spark something in this team. And Nolan Richardson had an NCAA tournament team that, with Joe Johnson as a freshman and some other guys that were a little older that were, kind of a smaller team that he had. And we know that team ended up winning it's the only SEC tournament Arkansas has ever won, and they had to win it to get to the NCAA tournament. And they got bounced in the first round against Miami. I was at that game. I believe that was in Nashville. Was that Nashville, Tennessee? I believe it was. But that Arkansas team punched its ticket that way. Again, this is a really good SEC. It would be a really tough path. I think Arkansas, again, at best, would need to win 4 out of 4. Maybe 5 out of 5, but we're not even there yet. There's still, at 12 and 11, you still have 8 league games left, and if Arkansas can find a way, I mentioned 5 of the quad 1 opportunities out of those 8. Quad 1, only 1 of those is at home, so 4 on the road. But I think the 3 other games at home that are quad 2s and 3s are very winnable, and so if Arkansas could find a path to at least split these games. No one's going to be happy that there's not going to be Elite 8 and Sweet 16 runs. But if you find a way to split those games, in addition to splitting these last 4, at least progress was made and your program did not implode. I think that's something that was definitely on the table for this team. Anybody disagree with that? I mean, you've had multiple Hogs miss multiple games this year. I think 7 Razorbacks have missed games for a variety of reasons. And this is we know Musselman likes to settle on that 6, 7, 8 rotation. He's not been able to do that. Today he did. There's probably been 2 or 3 games where he's kind of drilled it down a little. But today he was really able to do that. We don't know moving forward if we're going to see more games like we saw against Auburn and Florida and LSU and Ole Miss. I mean, that's 4 games where Arkansas got the doors blown off. We saw that against Oklahoma and Tulsa. The final margin was 9. But we know that felt like a 20-plus point loss. It felt that bad. It looked that bad. And so where does this thing go now? I don't think you can take this and say that Arkansas's turned a corner. But Razorbacks have won 2 of their last 3. We're almost 38 minutes in. By the way, there were recruits here. Jaden Johnson, a 5-star in the class of 2026. He had indicated to me weeks ago that he'd planned on being here. He did touch base with me yesterday, to tell me that he was not going to be able to make it. So Jaden Johnson was not here. Arkansas had several visitors in today. One of those is Jalen Shelley, already signed with Arkansas in the early period, the 6'8" combo forward, Link Academy over there in Branson, Texas, young man from Texas, top 100 4-star, again, 6'7", 6'8" combo forward. One of those guys, I think, who, once he gets in his college career, can be a plus defender, maybe defend multiple positions on the front line and the perimeter. There's some similarities to another recent Link graduate who's now in the NBA, who played 1 season in Arkansas. He was a 5-star, Jordan Walsh. Speaking of pro Hogs, I'm going to get back to recruiting, but it got me thinking. Mason Jones is back in the NBA. He just signed a 2-way deal with the Sacramento Kings. He's been on previous 2-way deals, started with the Houston Rockets. Then he was on one with the Philadelphia 76ers. It didn't last long. He's been in the G League. He played some with the Lakers, not much, and got into a few games there and played mostly in the Lakers G League affiliate, South Bay. But now he's with the Sacramento, been with the Stockton Kings in the G League, and now on a 2-way deal. So we will see him in an NBA game, which raises Arkansas's NBA Pro Hogs up to 12. Up to 12. It was 11. It's going to be 12. Stanley Amudi, who played earlier in the year on his 2-way deal with the Detroit Pistons, had been in the G League for quite a while. He's reemerged, had a 14-point game the other night. Nick Smith Jr., Pat Beverly traded from Philadelphia, where he was teammates with Ricky Council, traded to the Bucks, where he's now teammates with Portis just last night. Both of those guys played well. The Bucks blew out the Charlotte Hornets at home. Nick Smith Jr. played, I think, 24, 25 minutes, finished with 13 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds in that game. I think Portis had 18 or 19 points, 7 or so rebounds, and Patrick Beverly hit a couple of threes. There was a stretch at the end of the third quarter where Beverly and Nick Smith were going at each other. Beverly's trademark, getting his chest into guys, kind of stirring things up, getting physical. The ref blew the whistle and stopped things, and had a talk to Patrick Beverly and Nick Smith Jr. But both guys traded threes. Each one hit one on the other one to close out that third quarter. So you really like to see Nick's competitive fire because he also ran up to Beverly after knocking down his three when they were inbounding the ball and tried to get into him defensively to say, look, I can do it too. Mentioned Ricky Council IV had 14 points in a blink of the eye of the eye. Now, a lot of this that Ricky's seeing the floor in mop-up time. And he's had a couple of double-digit scoring games with 14 points a couple of days ago in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. So we know he's a volume guy, and he gets to the free throw line in volume, and I think he was 7-8 at the foul line, scoring those 14 points. He's improved as a three-point shooter, not only in the G League, but in minimal action so far in his NBA run. Moses Moody and Isaiah Joe just both recently returned after missing several games due to injuries. Daniel Gafford traded to the Dallas Mavericks, made his debut today, and the Mavs blew out Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Daniel playing off the bench, 19 points, 9 rebounds, and a block in only 17 minutes, a box plus 9. I think his team won by 30 plus. But look, Gafford to me, in his 5th season, is a solid pro. If you look across the board, all of his numbers are up there. They've gotten better and better. He's always been a high percentage guy when you look at field goal shooting. His free throw shooting's getting better. He's averaging career highs in points. Rebounds are way up. I think he was mid-5s his best season. He's at 8 per game. So going in the right direction there. His assist. Now, his assist may dip in Dallas. They play a little differently. In Washington with the Wizards, they ran a lot of dribble handoff schemes with him where they set him up out high to be a picker and a passer. And then roll off of that and play off of that. So he got a lot of assists because he handled the ball a lot in that offense. Not as a ball handler, but as a catch guy, and then turn and either hand off short or get a pass to someone cutting or it's offsetting. So he's a guy that now he's going to get a lot more lobs playing off a roll. And he got, I think his first bucket was a lob from Luka early after he checked in early in that sometime in that first quarter, and got a lob pretty quickly within seconds for a dunk there. And again, 19 points, a big game for him. I think he was 7-11 from the field and 5 of 6 at the free throw line, if memory serves. All right, so we kind of, like I said, Moody's back. Who am I leaving out? I think Gafford, by the way, guys, I think, Bobby Portis has been the standard bearer for the last several years. You've got a lot of younger guys getting into the league. Portis is a veteran, and he's probably been the most consistent and, the most productive, certainly, of the pro Hogs. I think right now, as we get close to the All-Star break, I think Daniel Gafford is having the best season among pro Hogs. And now he's with a winner. Even if he's playing off the bench, he was in a starting role on a bad team. Even playing off the bench, I think he's going to be, I think he'll probably typically be, even when Dallas is at full strength on the front line, somewhere between 20 to 24 minutes per game. We'll see if I'm right about that. But I think his production is going to be just fine if that's the case. But I think he's probably having the best season among pro Hogs, despite what it led up to till now, being on a team with only 10 wins, one of the worst in the league. Now he's with a winner and can maybe help Dallas take another step, because that is a winning team in league play. When you look at the NBA, one of the best teams in the league, and arguably one of the top 5 players. And look at Doncic. Kyrie Irving's a stud when he's available and playing, and they got some other pieces. And so I think Dallas had a good trade. A couple of good trade acquisitions on the day of the deadline on Thursday. All right, back to recruiting. I mentioned Jalen Selly, the Hogs honey. I know I'm all over the place, but Arkansas had a few more guys in-state guys. Tristan Jonke from Central Arkansas, Joe T. Robinson, 6'8". DJ Hudson right across the street at Fayetteville High. These are younger players, but DJ Hudson's a wing, small forward type. I like his game. I like Jonke's game. And then Jonathan Van Buren, a 6'2" guard at Edmond North. So you had those 3 guys in addition to Jalen Selly, the Hog signee today. I mentioned Jaden Johnson, the 6'5" guard out of Trinity High School in Louisville. He'd planned to be here for an unofficial visit day. He's a top 25 star in that 2026 class, and he did not make it. So I'm just repeating that a little bit. All right, we're 45 minutes in. There was some other stuff. I'm just gonna address it because I did talk about it on Drive Time Sports yesterday on HogvilleNET. If you go on the board, you'll see it. But when Arkansas, Caleb Battle did not play in the second half against LSU. When Arkansas returned to Fayetteville early in the week, A source confirmed with me that he did not practice on Monday and was on indefinite suspension, indefinitely suspended. It was unclear if that was going to be formally announced. Arkansas did not have a midweek game. And so a lot of times, whether it's injury or something like this, you might not see an announcement until right before tip-off, if at all. Musselman had a press conference to preview this game on Friday. So late in the week, a day before game in Musselman, it didn't come up. It didn't come up today, and Ballo played. I speculated that it could be one of those situations, though there was an indefinite suspension. It's indefinite. So with no midweek game to possibly see how that played out sooner, maybe there was time for him to wriggle free of that, and maybe the missing the second half against LSU was considered time served, or however you want to phrase it. So nothing was publicly acknowledged about it. Nothing was talked about it, and he played today. And so I do want to follow up on that only because it's been out there. I wasn't the first to put it out there, but I knew about it early in the week, right around the time that it happened. And, so for what it's worth, you got Dvo back today. I mentioned that. Everybody, it was all hands on deck. We know Trevor Brazil, this is the fourth consecutive game. I didn't talk about him where he's been out with a knee soreness. When Musselman's asked about it, it sounds like some distant dystopian future before he might be ready to go. So we know that this is a guy with NBA draft projections ranging from late first round, second round. There's different opinions on that. He's not had the best of a season when he has played, aside from 3 or 4 games, maybe a handful. Maybe I'll give him credit. Maybe there's 5 I can look back on and say first round worthy. So we'll see how that plays out. Does he protect the knee? Does he, try to focus on the draft, although he's still part of the team? He was here today. Or does he make a return? Does he play? Nick Smith Jr. Returned twice dealing with his knee, not once but twice, and finished the season with the Razorbacks. I'm not saying that to make judgments on Trevor Brazil. What I'm saying is that was what he did. We don't know if this results also in a return. Maybe it doesn't. So we'll see how that plays out. But for the most part, you have to, if you're an Arkansas Razorback fan, whether you hate the record, whether you hate where this thing's headed in terms of doesn't look like postseason, at least the last 4 games are some positives, because if you compare them to the first 6 games of league play and the Oklahoma game, yeah, there's still an ugly loss in there against LSU in these last 4. But 3 of them, you won 2 and you had your shot against a good Kentucky team, a team that's been exposed a little bit. It's a soft team and it's not a great defensive team, but still, Arkansas gave itself a chance to win. All right, we're going to sign off. We made it almost 48 minutes. Thank you for joining me again. Arkansas 78, Georgia 75 at Bud Walton Arena on Saturday. Hogs 12-11, 3-7 in league play. Winners of 2 of their last 3 games, and then they'll be back in this building to host 6th-ranked Tennessee on Wednesday. ESPN2, 8 p.m. tip-off. I want to thank my sponsors, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. I want to thank all of you for joining me. I missed comments mostly today. Sometimes I'm better at it, sometimes worse. It was one of those days, and we'll have hopefully a pregame at Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown on Wednesday, and then a postgame really late, because that's at 8 o'clock tip here at Bud Walton Arena on Wednesday. But until then, we'll see you then.